Welcome to the Trinitech Cast. This is episode number 75, and we are recording this sometime in June because, as I told you at the start of the episode, that this is interview month. Not because we are doing anything special, but we may or may not be available to do normal. So we just recorded some interviews that we were looking to do for a while, but you would have heard that at the start of the show. This is my co-host, Mr. Akeem Beep of Redbit_Tech, because you don't need to get the surname, you just need the first name.
No, I could.
No.
Big deal.
All right. Let's not fight it. Yeah. How are you going? You good?
Yeah, cool for the while, man. Cool, but kind of in my glee, every day, 3 times a day, again to see football. It's like
on the Euros.
Sneakerting during the day while I work.
Yeah. Well,
let's have it on in the background.
By the time this episode is aired or posted, there would have been a winner of the Euros. So who do you think, based on what you've seen so far, is going to be the winner? Because people will hear this episode and see if you were like Paul the Octopus now. Call a team. Based on what you've seen so far, because I've been watching too. I'll call one also. Boy, man, speechless.
Yeah, because I don't think I see like a clear-cut person.
Yeah, because there've been a lot of draws. Yeah,
everybody kind of.
And the top
some
scorer
people
right
playing.
now.
Yeah, so Spain looking okay, because they have like 100%.
Call a team. You're dancing around the question.
I don't really, like, I just watching it for watching it sake. I don't really have a horse in the race.
Well, right, I don't. You don't need to have a horse in the race.
France,
all right,
I guess.
France, based on what you've seen. Based on what I've seen.
Just based on history.
Based on what I've seen, I think Belgium could do it.
Hell no.
Based on what I've seen.
With Lukaku striking, nah.
Yeah. Now he had a few goals that was like
offside.
Chalked up for offside, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just that
Lukaku.
De Bruyne don't know when to pass to him now, because he's not as fast as everybody else that he's played with. So De Bruyne does pass kind of early for him, and hope that you
guys, everyone listening, by the time it's aired, you would see that Belgium was knocked out in the first round of 16 or whatever.
I see based on what I see.
Yeah, France going and go further than Belgium.
Okay, we will see. I don't know if Mbappe knows still hold up. All right, so we have that's enough football talk. Those of y'all who don't watch football at all and you're just here for the technology, we are sorry, but we are technology people that have other passions also. So and everybody has their own passion. So today we're going into interview, and we're going to be interviewing a young lady, a young woman. I don't know if to call her a young lady or a young woman. Which one is more flattering? Young lady.
I think. I don't know. Lady, some is like, the opposite of gentleman. So I don't know. Yeah, right. You rather somebody call you a young man or a gentleman?
I rather you call me a big man. That's what I want to say. But yeah, we're going to be interviewing one of my past students, honestly, and her name is Cyan Sylvester, and I'm going to bring her to the stage now. Welcome to the podcast, Cyan. How are you today?
Hey. I'm good. How are you?
You're good?
How are y'all?
We really good. And you really did a good job with the podcast set, because you have a colorful picture. That's Bob Marley, right? That looks like Bob Marley.
Jimi Hendrix.
Right. Okay. That's Jimi Hendrix.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. It was looking like Bob Marley from far. And you have the palm tree with the door behind. Right, and the lighting is clearly structured to create the what is called this thing effect.
I came prepared.
Yeah, negative effect on your face where you have one side you have the shadow and the next side is bright. Yeah. Well done.
Hi.
So this is the the Trini TechCast, where we speak to Trinis, and sometimes they live away, sometimes they're home, but Trinis in tech. And the reason you are here is because you are definitely Trini in tech, and you do many things when it comes to technology. And it's not like you're a token lady, but you are the first female that we've interviewed, aside from Sinead and Kwasi, but the only individual female, because you are one of those females that in it to win it, boy, in my point of view. And for the first name drop, Cyan was my first ever Form 6 student, and now she is on my podcast. These are things that you dream of, you don't write this down. You just be like, in however how much years I'll have a podcast and one of my students will be on it.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of say something about your age too, ever. Like,
I have kids, right?
Yeah, his age.
Yeah, not
I don't get into that.
I have zero issues with my age. I have done enough in this world to say, I've accomplished a lot at age 40. That's my age. Yeah. So we're going to have Cyan inside here, and we're going to ask her the normal interview questions. But of course, every interview has the same kind of format, but the discussions, they always go very interesting as we go along. And I know that the answers that you'll have to the questions will cause us to have some follow-ups and see how it goes. So before we head to the first break, we don't really do intros, but this is Sylvester from where? I don't know. You have anything that you
Trinidad
that you go by? Yeah.
What you mean?
Like who you work for, startups, all that kind of stuff. Now we don't normally do those things because we just informal.
I feel like we could skip it because it's just so many startups. If that makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. And when we get to the discussions, I would
just say like I'm an entrepreneur. It's way easier.
Good. Exactly, because that's what I train you to be like. Sorry.
No, it's true. In class, it was like, are you buying the doubles for $5 or for $3? Like,
the doubles conversation.
It was really business all the time.
I remember. And you did do a whole PowerPoint presentation on why your mother should buy you an iPhone.
I did. I
Can't forget that. All right, so we'll go into the first segment, which is her technology history. How did she get to where she is right now? Where did it start? And we will see how that goes. We'll be right back after this. All right, so Cyan, let's hear your technology history. Where did it all start in terms of technology, and how did you get into it? Why did you choose it? What was the inspiration? And generally speaking, when it comes to technology, why would you tell people that, I chose this because, something along that lines? Yeah.
I think naturally I gravitate to, while I was introduced to technology in school. So we had a computer class in primary school, and they had the large desktop computers, and we were learning how to type. You would play video games to learn how to use the mouse. Like you would dress up Barbie. Like it was just a fun time. It was the caterpillar thing, the snake game, the solitaire. Like those type of things is what like I was initially introduced to. And I think at that time, all you could do was paint. That's all you could do. Just paint on a notepad.
Oh, yeah, no. Like when you take the paint and you draw the lines and then you fill them with little colors to make a kind of mosaic. Yeah. And I think like just that being introduced to it as a fun thing, I was always just interested in it on a whole. And my parents actually kept me quite, I would say, up to date. So for instance, I remember the Sony Walkman. I used to listen to music a lot, and that was the first phone you could store like a lot of songs on. That was the one with the kind of orange.
And it could slide a drop to the side.
Yes.
It slide to the side, and then have the speakers and thing. And God, such a cool time,
When you say Sony Walkman, you're talking about like the phone, not the actual Walkman.
Phone.
Not the player.
Phone. Not the
cassette player.
That's where my mind went.
My thing with technology, why I feel like I was like born in the perfect time is because I saw cassette, I saw CD, I saw desktop, I saw laptop. So it's like we were at the breaking point of it. So we experienced each one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just really enjoyed playing games on it. Like it was just interesting to me. And then of course in school we had IT. And that's where we learned like Word, Excel, databases. And I was naturally good at it. And many people in school were like, IT? Why? Like, why would you do IT? And I was like, I don't know. I kind of get it. It's kind of cool. Like, well, at that time you were writing lines of code in your copybook. It was very manual. It was some dark
times. Yeah, dark times. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I remember for Kate, when I was picking subjects, I was never like, okay, I have to do all sciences, or neither my parents. So they kind of let me fall into what I was interested in. And I ended up picking IT. It was the first time that we offered it. So Mr. Charles would have been the first IT teacher for Form 6. And I also did computer science outside of school for Form 6 because our school didn't offer it. So I somehow naturally gravitated to the tech space, but I never like knew of any roles in it. I didn't know where IT or computer science could take me, to be honest. I remember in Form 6 when I had to do my SBA, or is it called an IA?
IA, the IA.
An IA. I was just like, why did I choose this? I have to code a website with a button, and I was freaking out. And I was just like, who sent me here? Because it was also, I didn't know how different IT and computer science was. So I felt like I was playing catch up. And I also never said like, I want to be this. I kind of had an idea of what I liked. It was like between sports management. I really liked bio. And then I really liked accounts. So I was like, well, one of them gonna have to work out.
The third subject you did was accounts, right? You did
Yeah.
Accounts. Yeah.
So it was computer science, IT, and accounts. So at that point, when I was going to university, I was like, maybe something around forensic accounting. So that was kind of what I was thinking at the time, but not fully tied to it either. And then I actually didn't do IT or computer science at all in university. I went for accounting and finance in Barbados.
Yeah.
And from there, I got an internship with Massey Group to be an internal audit assistant. And internal audit is a bit different from external because internal is processes and procedures. So let's say you are auditing Massey stores and you want to audit how you set a price to something. You would say, okay, well, they should have gotten a purchase order. That purchase order should have been an invoice. It should have had 2 signatures, like the process of how it should have been. Price is correct. So I was doing that for all of their industries. And at the same time, I had friends in the tech space building apps. And they kind of pulled me into their projects because they knew I understood like kind of the business landscape because of my audit background. It just went from there.
So let's go back a little bit to primary school. Now, all you saw a computer for was for games, right?
At that time, if I could think about it, yeah. And also the keyboard, like being able to type.
Okay.
So
but the reason you type was for typing games.
At the time, yeah, because we had no other reason. I think in our like library session there was a typewriter, so we also learned like how that worked too.
Yeah.
But we weren't using the computer to like send emails, communicate on MSN, nothing like that yet. It was just all local and like downloaded on the desktop to be used.
So would you say that had you not seen the games or the reason was fun, a computer at that point in time would not have been anywhere attractive because it was just like a big machine that has things. But what do you get from it that makes you happy?
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting question. Because I think we always look at technology as, well, it is a tool, like it's a thing to help you do something, but it's really important how somebody's introduced it because it determines whether or not they'll continue using it. And I think you see that when you're building products now. If something is overcomplicated and people can't understand it, they're not going to spend very long trying to figure it out. So I do think like having a sticking point of this is why this person would come back to this thing is important when, especially, it's something new. So for me, I think games were a great way not only to get you to use it, but to understand how to navigate it, because the mouse was new, the keyboard was new, the idea of like moving things across a screen was new. It was unnatural then.
Right. Did you know that the original reason that Microsoft put Minesweeper into Windows was to teach people how to use a mouse so that they could left click and right click? That was their actual goal, because nobody was at that time. The only mouse I had was the one-click mouse that Apple had on the Apple II, I think.
Yeah.
And the right clicking on Minesweeper to mark the block as a flag. They actually built that game just so people would learn to use a mouse properly.
Now you said I'm kind of ashamed to say something. I didn't know I could right click. I didn't know I could right click on Minesweeper. In fact, I still know how to play it. Like to win, I just used to randomly click it just to,
I promise you, the moment I found out the goal in Minesweeper, I was like, this game was made for me. I am going to figure this out. So I went from the 8x8 to the 16x16 to the 24x24, and I was like, I am going to beat this game. Well, that's the reason I stopped playing games. I have a really bad problem where once I start a game, I have to win. I have to beat it. So I don't know that from sports day and them thing, right? But long story short, my competitive nature when it comes to video games is tough. So you introduced it and you started to like it, and then. Now, in your story, you said that you went through school and you started to see the productivity apps now. You started to see word processing, spreadsheets, databases, and whatnot. Was there a shift in terms of, like, as you mature, you start to see different tools around you a little more? Like some children, when they start to mature, they start to see like the kitchen and they want to try to cook because they realize that there are things that you can do here that might sustain life, or there may be something to do that could make things better. Is there any one of those apps or word processing spreadsheets or databases that showed you something that was like, ooh, this is cool. I can, I don't know, make a budget, or I can create a document and a little clue.
I remember when I was younger, I was obsessed with being a cashier or a teller for some reason. Like I just really like counting money and putting it in on the calculator. I mean, who doesn't, right? But then when we got spreadsheets, what I used to do is I pretended I ran a spa. I would answer the phone. I would have a journal. In those days, it was a thick journal, and I would write down the entry. And at the end of the day, I'll calculate how much money I was supposed to make. And then that was the spa working 3 days. So when we learned spreadsheets, I was like, oh my gosh, I could just drag this thing and it does it for me. So then I turned it, I put my process into spreadsheets and I started going there. And then I was like, okay, I'm a little over wanting to be a cashier now. But I understood like the use case for it.
Right,
For sure.
Go ahead, Akim.
Yeah, so I mean, as I said, you had to start in IT and technology in terms of gaming, and then you went through, your school life, and then, you was kind of undecided whether you wanted to do accounting, you wanted to do IT, and then, you went into, I think it's finance, is accounting, fair degree at Barbados, auditing, and then you kind of get pulled back into IT or the technology space, so is it that you're firmly in the tech space, or you try to incorporate both, both the tech, the finance part, and you stop with the spreadsheets and the spa, So are you firmly in the tech space, given your financial background, or you try to incorporate the both? You can't know as well. You talk about your entrepreneurial,
right? Tech is not just tech anyway. It's like a full ecosystem. Like no product exists without something operating behind it. Like, I mean, you could have a product out there, but how do people know about it? How does it get out there? So, of course, yes, I'm in tech, but I think I intersect between tech business, as in the company that I'm working for, and the client. I am like the
glue
role in between that, like making sure that all those needs are met and it comes out of the product and how the team works.
So you're officially by majority you're a product manager for the most part.
Yeah, right? I would say I heavily have a a good marination between product and project management. Because I work with startups and the team is small, you tend to find like a lot of flow within the roles. So there would be certain parts that I would pick up on the product leadership side that some product managers may not necessarily have to.
I'm currently doing an online course on product management because, well, as you know, I've launched a few products and I was like, maybe I should learn about this.
Really?
No, because
how's it going?
The project management course online, not very good.
Is project management or product?
Product management.
Okay.
It's not going very good because exam season has rocked. Exam season has always rocked me like a ton of bricks. And as soon as exams finish, I was like, okay, cool. I have time to do things now. But I have children, and my son in Form 1, and he has end-of-term exams. So every weekend moment I have, you study, you do your work, come along and pick you up, or those sort of things. And I didn't know that I would take up so much of my time, because I was saying like, okay, I'll dedicate half an hour every evening to just go through the videos, answer the questions. But I'm struggling right now. I'm really struggling. And right now I'm just relying on all my years of experience doing things to just be like, okay, make the right decision. But but to see you become a product manager and not be extremely techie, because you admittedly, you're not trying to go on code. You're not trying to pop
but I understand what they're doing.
Yeah. Now, that's the cool part, because to come from I wish I had an accountant or somebody with an accounting background to do all the financial stuff for me and be able to tell me what are the things that you have to do and the things that compliance and all that kind of drama, because finding that out on the fly, that's really annoying. When you just want to build
a thing.
Yeah, build something.
Literally.
And then you realize you could build the thing and then you can't launch it, or you can't do this because of all kind of weird stuff, right? Now, to transition to a product manager from the world of finance, you had to make what most people would call a tough decision. I know what a tough decision is, but I want you to kind of walk through the difficulty of the decision to not, I don't want to say leave a job, but to leave a particular space and go into the space that you're in right now. How was that in terms of, we're getting a little deep here, so the questions might get a little intimate.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I think I knew I was in a challenging space when I began to enjoy my side hustle more than my actual day-to-day job.
Interesting.
So like what I would have presumed at the time as my side hustle. Yeah. And then I actually had a business coach at the time, because why did I have a business coach? Because I felt that
you could hire a business coach. You hired a business coach. I was just like a mentor that I had for.
Okay. No, I hired a business coach. For sure. I did, because I felt like, you go through life and you're told a story, like go through primary school, secondary school, Form 6, university, you get your dream job and you settle and you're good. That was the dream.
LIES. Yeah, go ahead.
You go into that work space and you realize, oh, it's not just paying your dues. Like dues is forever, like forever, ever. Like it's really not the dream that they sold you. Like in my mind and even my friend's mind, it was like, okay, once you get that degree, you're set. But we had gates, so everyone had a degree. So it was like, okay, do you do a master's? Do you do a specialization? And always like trying to find the best way to get on the next step of like the corporate ladder. And I felt like for me in the corporate world, I loved the idea of structure, process, and procedures. Like I have an appreciation for that, but I think businesses who already make money can just become susceptible to that, and they just continue doing the same thing over and over, because why would you change? Yeah. And I think as a person who enjoys solving problems, once I hit a year and I feel like I've learned what I could learn from the role, and I'm now like just pushing paper and there's nothing new happening, I start to kind of get antsy. I'm like, all right, well, what's the next certification? How do I become manager now? And then you realize, oh, but the structure is super flat. The next position from the supervisory position I was in was manager, and I'd already done the specialization to become a supervisor. So it was like I was just getting accreditations to get further, but I wasn't actually interested in the type of work I was doing.
Correct.
And then the side hustle, it was so brand new. It was like figuring out a new thing. And honestly, getting an idea from just conversation to, oh my gosh, this thing is out there. People are using it. It's helping them. Like that adrenaline rush of knowing a thing you built is helping somebody was so much better than I just risk rated this client as high and he has to give us another form of ID.
Yeah. So, I mean, you bring up risk there, right? You know, so in terms of doing, you know, you have your side hustle while you have your main job, you know, and some people, you know, it's reach a point where you have to decide, you know, if I'm willing to take the risk of leaving your main job to your side hustle. You know, how was that transition, or what? I know you say you reached a point where, you know, in terms of what you're doing every day, it wasn't fulfilling, but, you know, find that, like, for me financially, I would have to feel like, okay, at a point, you know, where I can make the jump, or, so, you know?
Yeah, the caveat is I did this full-time job school because I was getting an accreditation. I got my anti-money laundering specialization so I could look for fraud in businesses, basically. I did that, and I had all of my side hustles happening at the same time, and that happened for 2 years.
Hustles, like plural?
So I was working on the apps, but I also had marketing because whoever needed an app and website also needed, like, the product launched. They maybe at the time didn't have any social media presence. So it kind of like filtered naturally. I was good at marketing. At the time, my Instagram had a large following and I used it. I marketed the first app we did. People asked who did that. Then we got a website from a dental clinic in Trinidad, and they also needed social media. Still my client to this day, 5 years later. And it ended up being that I was literally working 16-hour days for a full year. Like, I was so burnt out, and I was like, the pandemic hit, so we were also working from home. So it would be that I had a client meeting and a work meeting at the same time. 2 different laptops, one on mute. Yeah, hold a second, I just need to reply. And I'm just like going back and forth. And then one day I was like, this is super tiring. And I felt as well that I did give the corporate side such a chance because I did the specializations. I put in the time, I got the promotion, I got the raise, and it still didn't feel any better in terms of the type of work I was doing. And I felt like I didn't really have anyone to talk to about it, because in that time everybody would have been like, girl,
you mad or what? Yeah.
Are you crazy?
Yeah.
You're gonna give up this stable job? And I think that's actually why I started looking for a business coach, because I was like, I feel like I need to talk to someone that would understand and actually like just kind of guide me on if this is a right decision. And from there, I think I had 5 sessions, and by session 5 he was like, okay, well, we've done 5 sessions, how do you feel about leaving? And I was like, yeah, I don't think that's an option as yet. And then he was like, but if you leave, how much notice do you have to give? And I was like, 2 months. And he was like, okay, and do you have rent to pay? Like, at the time I was living with my parents. And he kind of just like showed me it was more fair than risk that I would have been undertaking, because I already had an active clientele. I was already making consistently the amount I was making in work or more at the time. So the question that he asked me that I always ask myself is, what would it mean if you put 100% into this side of things? Like, how much would it grow if you didn't have that like anchor and you gave yourself the full 100? And I think a couple of days after I wrote up the letter, I sent it in, and that was it. I told my parents right before, with great concern. They were like, okay, that I mean, they didn't deter me, but you could tell like they were worried.
Boomers literally saying, I'm watching like, this is how people wreck their lives. Okay, cool. But I support you. You always have
I don't think it will be boomers. It will more be, what do you call it, Gen X. Boomers is like in the 70s and 80s.
That's true. Yeah, we Gen X, yeah. But I know Cyan's mother wouldn't pass me anywhere straight. She would be like, "Hi, Mr. Charles." And I was like, "I love what you did. Thank you so much for being a part of her life." And I was like, "Me, a part of her life?" Because from my perspective, I was seeing this taking place by following her, because I'm following her on Instagram. Because most of my past students, I will like follow them or stay in contact with them and whatnot. And I watching this and I was like, "Oh my goodness. This girl making me so proud." And I can't remember, I think I messaged you on Instagram or something like that, and I was like, "Whoa, you doing it, boy." Like I was like that kind of father, kind of vibe, like I hope this thing works out. I really hope this thing works out, because that kind of, for lack of a better word, that kind of gusto or balls basically was like, yo, jeez. Anyhow, and being it, and from a female perspective, where usually, statistically the odds kind of stacked up against you in our work world, that is technology, all those different things. We'll talk about that as we go along, but that's basically your history, and now you're at the stage of being a product manager for different things. We'll talk about the different things when we reach the third segment and what you actually do. But from a history perspective, I think your story is inspiring, boy. Like, it's inspiring, because a lot of people in Trinidad, they are afraid of trying technology or going into technology because we just believe Trinidad is just so technologically backward. There is no space or there is no hope, especially when you compare yourself to other countries and you look at the things that they can do. And then when we try to do it, we like, we don't have this, we don't have that, we don't have this, we have that. But I tend to believe that technology is almost getting to the point where it is universal, where anybody could do anything once you just have the drive and the skills. The ecosystem and the market will always be the biggest problem. But in terms of just raw skill, you could outwork somebody from a different country if you want to. And the only thing that will stop you is the systems that are in place now. And we have to deal with the systems part, but outworking people. When you say 16-hour days, I was like, hey, boy, yeah, I know what that feels like. Yeah. The only problem is I was born to teach, so there's no way I'm leaving teaching. So I just hired employees. I was like,
nice.
I was like, yo, wow, I'm making quite a amount of money right now. I could leave teaching. And then I immediately, like in 0.5 seconds, I was like, you strip it off. like there's nothing that brings me more joy than teaching. So I was like, okay, let me see if I could find other people who would be able to take the same kind of joy I have. And so I hired employees, basically all my past students. But I couldn't hire Cyan because she was too big now. Yeah, so I was like,
wow, not true.
Yeah,
fake news.
Basically, everybody that came after you, every year group, I have one of them as my employees right now. And
that's amazing.
That is how makeITsimpleTT does function. That's how all the videos does go up, because I don't have time to post anything. So that's the technology history, and I'm glad that you said all of those things. And to people that listening, especially past students of mine who listen to the podcast, it is a thing. And as we go along, continue to listen. And I promise you, if you reach out to her, she would love to, because she does this kind of woman mentorship kind of thing. But we'll talk about that coming on to the end. So we're going into our next segment, and the next segment is generally what technology are you passionate about and how you use that technology to leverage your day-to-day life. And if you had 4 hours extra in your day, what would you do? Not yoga, but technology-wise, right? So we'll come back after this. Have you ever tried to order something online using a Visa debit card, but you can't? Is shopping online something you always do already using a Skybox, but sometimes you need advice on knowing what to buy or what will work? I'm Mr. Charles from makeITsimpleTT, and we aim to make technologies that solve problems in a Caribbean context. So we created Order It. What is it, you ask? What is Order It? It's an app and a website that helps you order it in 2 ways. The first way is if you already order things online. You're familiar with using a Skybox, you're familiar with using a credit card, but sometimes you don't always have answers to certain questions, like which laptops will get a warranty in Trinidad, which phones will work on the Digicel network or the mobile network. So our app helps you order it. Every product that we list in the app, we will let you know the truth based on the experience of 20 years of ordering things online and using various Skyboxes in Trinidad and Tobago. So here are some of the questions that the app answers for you based on the products that we list. What are the taxes? Why does it cost so much when I actually get it? What is dimensional weight? All these questions and more we answer in the app because we want to help you order. All you have to do is simply pick from our list of recommended items that we know and trust because we've ordered it already. Follow through the payment process, we'll order it, and we can even have it delivered to you. So why don't you give it a try? Search for Order It by makeITsimpleTT in the App Store or the Google Play Store, or you can even go online to orderit.makeITsimpleTT.com and check and see if we could answer some of your questions and help you in the process of ordering it. All right, so we're back, and we reached to the point where we just understood Cyan's whole technology history, how she got to being a product manager wherever she is right now, which we'll find out. But it starts off like this. If there were 4 hours extra in a day, and you were allowed to apply that 4 hours to some sort of technology-driven passion, what would you use those 4 hours on?
What would I use? 4 hours is so long, first of all.
Yeah,
that's real pressure.
As you say before, it could probably just be technology that you're using now that you're passionate about, or it could be along that lines too.
Yeah, it might be something that you're using right now, but you say to yourself, "Oh, I want to go so much deeper into this because this could make things work so much more efficient, but I just don't have the time to like flesh it out to make it work for me better," or some kind of thing like that. What do you say?
I think there's something with. Okay, I'm going to start off with the products I am passionate about, so it would lead into that, right?
Right,
so first of all, I love Loom. It makes my job 100 times better. Loom is like, I don't know why, first of all, Loom took so long to launch, because it's such a basic idea that has been life-changing. So if anybody doesn't know.
Loom is a screen recorder, right?
Yes, Loom allows you to take screen recordings, but it's so easy to share the screen recording with other teams. You could comment on exact points within the video, and this is important for product teams specifically, because if a designer sends a file, like a prototype that you have to review and get feedback on, it's kind of difficult, one, to hop on a call every time you have to do a design review, because that's what we would have done in the past. You record that meeting to review it. You go through the physical Figma file, but it's hard to follow like where you're going. So yeah, Loom, perfect, saves real time, also for documentation purposes. So I do a lot of product walkthroughs. So Loom has like really good embed features on Notion. So what that would look like is you just drop a link and the video just appears YouTube quality, but it's your screen. So
for real? Okay.
Impactful. So Loom is one, and another one is called Granola, which is new on the scene. So Granola is an AI meeting tool. So it transcribes your notes, but it doesn't only transcribe your notes. It creates the summary. You can send follow-up emails. You can ask it questions about the conversations that have happened. And you can share the chat that you've done back and forth with Granola with your clients as well. So they have
I've never heard about Granola before. I'm currently Googling it,
Yeah, Granola is amazing.
I get Granola bars, but...
I am in a lot of meetings on a daily with clients and designers, developers. So Granola does really well in terms of documenting everything we spoke about, but also putting it into action items, key takeaways, like it just does it all for you.
Wow.
I would have spent hours on that normally. Now,
thanks for saying that. Yeah.
You're welcome. What I would work on for 4 hours is some type of tool that brings together my entire workflow to automate it. So right now I go to all these separate tools, and I also imagine that every person that works in business has their own specific workflow, their own roles and responsibilities. So what would it mean if we could incorporate all of these tools in the order and way that you needed to? So let's say I am a client that comes to you and I want to have customer onboarding. That customer onboarding is built with those tools that already exist. And you have all your documentation. It's automated throughout. So everyone on your team follows the process. That one is key. You don't have to train anyone, and your whole workflow is automated. You're super efficient. Like I would definitely somehow stitch together, like if it's an API, like whatever it is, I would stitch together everything and just kind of like be able to customize it based on who the user or the business is, like however they run their business.
I just watching the excitement on your face about about workflow. Like you don't really get somebody to be excited about, oh, I'm so workflow. Oh, you wouldn't believe how I want to.
That's the most frustrating part. Like when you don't have a system, it's like a headless chicken. Like it's frustrating.
That's cool. That's cool. So you like so you have these apps that you use and you kind of look for the best possible way to make your day efficient, because efficiency matters a lot to you, because the more efficient you do things, the faster things will get done, basically.
Well, not only faster, but I feel like time is your most important asset. So the best way it's spent is like the better my day goes, to be honest.
Now, on Instagram, you post a lot of things, but I tend to kind of notice some kind of context clues. You post a lot about something called deep work. Deep work is basically you lock in for an hour and a half and you'll get more done. I think that was one you posted last week. You'll get more done in an hour and a half than most people do in an 8-hour day, right? How did you find out about deep work, and what does it take to lock in for an hour and a half straight doing what you do? Because you are literally octopussing your hands all over with different clients, developers, this one, and all those different things. And for an hour and a half to do that, my eyes would pop out, because at some point in time, somebody will frustrate you. And the moment somebody frustrates me, I just push back my hands from the desk and be like, stop. Somebody just, because it's real hard to frustrate me. But when you do something frustrating, I'll be like, yo. And clients are the ultimate frustrators of life. So,
you find?
Yeah, like me coding and building something and working on the background.
Okay.
If the technology does something that's wrong, I don't see it as frustration. I see it as a challenge. I'll be like, this is not working. Challenge accepted. But if a human frustrates me, I don't see challenge accepted. I'll be like, you human, why are you like this?
You know, it is too sometimes because you probably interface a lot with the clients, and you get the requirements and stuff like that, and then you probably take it back to the developers. But say if the client have an issue, or if they're being difficult, do you feel that on your end, or is it on the developers' end?
I for sure feel it, and then it's my job to communicate that feeling to the team, because like everybody should be on the same page in terms of like where the client is and like how the project is going. Because this is actually a change we made recently in our startup, where before we used to have customer service representatives talking to the users, so the clients in this case. And I think because the responsibility was on them, there was like a gap between what the developers felt was high priority versus low priority based on how the user would be impacted. And only when the product team started having the conversations directly with the users and seeing how it affected them, did they understand why it would have been a different priority. So I feel like the onus is on the team as well, not to hide the responsibility of certain things onto specific roles, because if you're building something, you need to understand the user just as well as I do.
Yeah.
So you would go in Loom, your favorite app, and you would do the client would say something that's kind of weird, right? So I'm just imagining deep work is like, okay, I'm going to go in Loom and I'm going to do the most fire screen recording ever, so that when I send this to these people, there is zero questions that they could ask, and there will be nothing left up to interpretation or anything like that. And you'd knock that off. That's what deep work looks like.
No, deep work looks like knowing upfront everything that you have to do. So it's almost like you're setting yourself up to know what you have on your plate at a given time, what is the highest priority, and what within those tasks you need to do. And there's certain types of tasks that you would put into deep work, and other tasks that I would consider like more administrative. So you wouldn't find me responding to email in deep work because that just goes back and forth. And it's not something you really have control of in terms of like you could take that off your list, but if the client replies, it just goes back on your list. Deep work is more like I have a product launch plan to do, or I have a marketing strategy plan to do, something that is a big fish, something that takes a while that you need to lock into to make headway, to like edge that rock. And what I tend to do before my deep work is I say, okay, if I have a product launch strategy to prepare, I would say, what are the elements? What's the information I need for this? Put it all together before that deep work session. So when I put on that timer for 90 minutes, I already know what I'm going in to do. It's just action for 90 minutes.
There is a timer?
So there's a timer. Oh my gosh, it's on my desk over there. I could get it. Hold on.
I want to see this timer. Because in my, like from a developer's perspective, well, while she's getting the timer, if it's an analog clock, I will die. Or, you know,
that's
one of those clocks.
One of those that you have to turn and you're ticking.
Yeah, so it's a Pomodoro timer. It has different.
Oh my goodness! Oh, it's so cool. Yeah.
So you put it on the side for the time that you want. So if I wanted 30 minutes, and then it shows and beeps on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
This is what you have. So your phone is not nearby. No distractions. You're just locked in with your timer. You see how long it is. Give yourself 25 minutes per subtask that you gave under that full task.
Yeah.
And just be that focused and you will get it done.
Whoa,
because there's also something about when you box yourself into a time frame. Like if you say, I only have 2 hours to finish this thing, you will get it done because you know you only have 2 hours. But if it's like 3 weeks, you tend to procrastinate. You say, I need to get this. I need to find more information because you just have more time to waste. So
the same thing we were discussing last week. In last week's episode, we were talking about that.
Yeah.
So, now the timer thing, I get and I understand. Have you ever been in deep work and it was like, I could go for more? I feel I'm in a zone. I could do this.
Yeah, for sure. And for some reason, it always is in the wee hours of the morning, and then I pay for it the day after. That's how that goes. That's how that goes. But when you're in flow, you're in flow. But I think the idea of deep work for me is I am, like if you look at my calendar, I'm constantly in meetings. And meetings actually takes like a lot of context switching because it's conversations. It's hard for you to settle and get back into work. And then you're halfway through your work and you have to go back into a call. You can't remember where you left off. So for me, time blocking those deep work sessions really works because my team knows I can't have a meeting during that time. Like we know this time is time blocked for deep work. And I think your culture on your team really helps in that we respect each other's calendars. We know how each other works. And that really helps. So deep work is more in the chaos. This is the time I set aside to actually get things done.
And these are, there's basically utilizing calendars, like Gmail calendars, basically.
For sure.
You all use like Google Workspace for your work email, or you just use the normal Gmails?
No, we use Google Workspace for emails.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess, based on your role, your deep work or your calendar will look a bit different because you as a manager, having meetings, having to deal with clients and that back and forth, you're more or less constantly in a state where things might come up. So you need to specify that period of time just to do deep work or your creative type of work. But
because I know my workload.
Yeah. But let's say a developer or designer, most of their time would probably require deep work or creative type works and not necessarily the meetings and dealing with clients. So I guess their deep work period might be a bit longer or may have breaks in it in between,
For sure.
Yeah.
So as we came up with the scheduling part, I have a small team. I probably have like 4 people that work, right? Video editor, web developer, a app developer, and an administrator, right? Those 4. When it comes to this for the next section. We wouldn't talk about that now, right? So that's the technology that you're passionate about because we want to stay on point. So we talk about the things that you do just now because that's going to be my leading question.
Okay.
What do you actually do on a day-to-day basis, and how does that interface with your startups? So we'll start off with that. Yeah, we'll be back after the break. That was the best segue ever. I am a professional. Bye.
In today's digital age, every business needs a strong online presence to reach new customers and stay competitive. But not every business needs a complex website or a full-fledged e-commerce solution. At makeITsimpleTT, we understand that every business has unique needs, and we offer a range of tailored solutions to fit those needs. Over the years, we've helped many businesses. Our services include website design and development. We create a professional and user-friendly website like these that represent your brand and drives results. Invoicing and payment processing. We can streamline your billing process with a user-friendly invoicing system that integrates seamlessly with most payment gateways, and you can receive online payments easily. We also do automated order forms, which allows you to collect orders online and customer information effortlessly and send back automated emails, notifications, and reminders, and then you just have to make the sale at the end. And in some cases, we offer custom software development, where we can create a specialized software system that meets your business's specific needs. But the key to all this is that we make it simple. If it's not easy for you to use, then we failed. So you can contact us today to learn more about how we can help make your business more successful. You can WhatsApp us at 1-868-308-8799, or you can visit makeITsimpleTT.com/business.
All right, so we're back from the break, and we've reached to the point where we actually find out what does Cyan Sylvester do. So we know who she is. We know some of the apps that she uses, and we got a little insight into her day-to-day. But now we're going to actually find out, what do you actually do? What's the company or companies that you work for? Or is it a startup? Is it incubating? Whatever it is. So give us the rundown on that.
Okay. So I am an entrepreneur. I founded my own marketing company. So I have a marketing and product launch company. So we focus on launching products specifically, and the marketing strategy around that. Then I am a director at...
What's the name of that company? Sorry, what's the name of the...
Field Marketing. So it stands for People Hair Evolve a Lot.
PHEAL, right? Yeah, I knew that. I just wanted everybody to know that it had a cool name also.
And I also am a director at UnQ, which is a local startup marketplace. So businesses can sign on, sell online. Our latest work is with the Namdapco farmers. So you could purchase your produce online and have it delivered. Most recently, actually, we've shut down the consumer-facing UnQ app. And now we're moving to use the products and other services as services for other products. So using the technology versus running the company.
Yeah.
So that's UnQ. Then I'm also at Public Goods Studio, which serves SMEs and governments, small island development states. So anything from websites, apps, design projects, that comes through there. And that is more or less everything I do. Well, at least the things I'm a part of.
And travel the world.
Well, I actually haven't traveled for the year, so
it's only July. It's only July, I know, but last
that's
year
half the year.
You've been around well, that's to make up for the amount of places that you've been around. Because everybody knows from your gram that you be at these a lot of fintech seminars and conferences and whatnot, right? So that's just for you to network or build.
Well, those specifically, I went with Public Goods Studio. So we were doing some research because part of the work with the small island development states is to, I suppose, figure out
what
they need, but what also is like the most impactful problem that they're struggling with. And of course, cross-border payments came up in that. So we went to El Salvador to understand like how they've been utilizing Bitcoin to kind of get their financial situation under control. So we would have gone 2 years ago, and then we went back last year. So they had an Adopting Bitcoin conference where they basically tell you how they enter the market, how they're getting people to understand how to use Bitcoin and like the benefits of it, specifically in El Salvador. So yeah, those trips were actually for research for products that we were building at the time in the fintech space.
Okay, cool, excellent. Now, since you do all of those things and you have so many hats, I could see why you have so many meetings, right? Because one of them may be for one business, and the next one may be for a small island, and the next one might be a client that you had for another business. Our next meeting might be with the developers. Our next meeting might be with the designer. Our next meeting might be with that's not, my dogs are like, they're very interested in you also, right? So, but those people who listen to the podcast, they know the dogs make a guest appearance ever so often. So what in terms of scheduling with the team, because there are different people from different teams, and of course some of you all may be working cross company, where you're working on one project in this company and you're working on another project in that company and those other things. When it comes to interfacing with the team, you have the hardest part, which is you have to convey what a client wants to a technical person. And for us technical people, we just like to get the actual bare bones minimum. What do you need done? And please make this meeting 5 minutes so I can go and code, right? I'm not really trying to hear about the emotions that the client conveyed and all those different things, right? So that means there is a little two-faced kind of part to you where you have to be empathetic towards a client, but also clear and direct towards a developer. How does that work?
Challenging for sure at times, for sure. But I think that's where documentation is super important. So from the jump of a project, it's really important to get the team aligned. So we always have a kickoff chat, and usually developers hate meetings. But in most instances, we found that when you bring them on really early and explain what you're trying to do, they have way more context while they're working. So where you may have just given an instruction to do something and they just do that solely to the T, another developer who had more context may have thought it through and then asked a question like, but don't you all think this may have worked better in this way because this is what they're trying to do? So it's more collaborative than directive. And I think that's really important in product teams, especially when whatever you're solving for is new and may not have things that already exist to see as an example.
No. Which one is... Go ahead, Akimia.
Yeah, I want to ask something. Do you primarily work with... I know you mentioned some government involvement, but do you primarily work with private companies, or do you work with government, public sector companies as well?
Ooh, I would say right now it's an even balance because a lot of so we would have gotten the government work through grants. So we would have applied with an IDA through Kariri or the EU. They have a lot of great grants out there for startups. And they also put out a call for specific public statements on the UN CDF. So you actually went to those, you pitched your idea, you did a whole problem solving workshop, explained to these entities how it would work. And they actually had to vote for whoever got the project. So that was one side of it. And that, although kicked off last year, didn't actually come into play until this year. So like government projects take a lot longer because of how much, like the due process, there's so many levels to finding things. And within that time, because we were moving from operating the technology at UNQ into services, we definitely wanted to get like those private companies using that tech in the meantime. So that's why I would say it's even. Small island development states is the goal, like to support them and their problems with technology. But I think on the private side, helping businesses operate the most efficiently, it's been pretty balanced so far.
Okay. So if you had to, if you, let's say it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you've done all the deep work and whatnot, and say, okay, cool, you have the choice of meeting with our client or meeting with the developers. Who would you meet with?
It depends on where the project is.
Okay. All right. If you want to put some specifics, because we could go there. We could go. All right. First stage of our project, meeting with the client or meeting with the developer?
Developer.
Why?
Because I would have already gotten the requirements from the client and understood what they need. So it's like more for us to figure out what the milestones are, set up the project. We use a tool called Linear, so that like helps us track how development goes and like what those milestones are, how long it should take. So even though we have kickoff, there's still a whole set of like planning around how you're actually going to build the product and what you build first and why. So that's why I would say them. And the designers. Right. I would actually do design before developers, but yeah. Okay.
First review, or let's say do the MVP. MVP. You would have to. Would you rather go through the MVP with the developers first, or would you rather have the meeting with the client to show them what the MVP looks like?
Neither, because one, I would want to test the MVP without the developer because it should be working. So I shouldn't have to talk to you, to be honest. So that's one. And two, I would send the client a Loom. See how great Loom is? Right. Just record the test and be like, hey, check this out. Here's the link. Test. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then at the end of the project, the client, of course, because they had to get paid. Yeah. Okay. That's just me kind of segueing into the question segment. So we kind of know what you do, and we know how you get it done. And typically, product managers are basically Evo stick between client and a developer, because developers ain't want to talk to no clients, and clients don't want to talk to developers because they'll never understand what they want, or they never really truly grasp what they feel. So my first hard question, which will probably be about 5 questions, what's the worst thing a client could do that will make you feel like they have transitioned from normal client to difficult client?
Okay. So for every milestone...
Don't call any names, Don't call any names, don't call any businesses, of course. No. Yeah, what is what you can do, all the people are listening here, right? Yeah.
At the start of a project, you determine the milestones. Within those milestones, you have what would constitute as an approval phase, right? So you have the product requirements, you approve that. There would be some approval stages that are tied to payments, right? So that would typically be the larger ones, like design, front-end development, back-end development, for example. So I would say if we've gone through design approval, front-end approval, and we're now on back-end, and you're asking for a new page or feature that we have never heard of or discussed, that's a challenge, because it's like, we're like 40% left. No, 40 is high. 20% left on this project. And now that's kind of like, oh, we have to go back to the drawing board, because even though it seems like just a page, that page is connected to another page. Where does that connection happen? Is it to the top, to the bottom? How does it look? What are the features on that page? Like, there's so many things that impact that one small thing.
Right.
That I would say, like, when you pass an approval phase and you have to go back to it.
Yeah, so more or less like scope creep.
Scope creep.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. But so I mean, you could always say, and when you're doing your agreements, anything additional, you have to pay by the hour.
Well, absolutely, but you also want to make sure the project finishes on time. Like it's more like you want to make sure that when you said this product would be out there, it's out there. And most of the times, it's not a matter of the work; it's actually going back and forth with the clients of why they think that would be important for this version of the thing. So what we would tend to do in those circumstances is we'd say we'd look into it, prepare a proposal, see what it would take, and that way they have that on file to make like an informed decision, but they also know the impact to the project. So how long additional that would take, how like, or if you want to phase it out, if you want to release, then work on it. So always giving them the data they need to make the decision.
So I mean, in terms of what percentage of projects would you say would have that issue? Because I mean, in nature, IT projects is all.
I would say 90%.
I was gonna say that. Just based on like my experience in IT projects, you always have scope creep.
Yeah. When you were talking about
like, well, at least from when I was doing project management, they always say that IT projects has one of the highest failure rates. And if you measure it across all the other engineering, any other type of project, and it's mostly because of that scope creep or technology change, and if it taking too long and things change, an upgrade come out, a patch. So
and also because clients think you could do the world for them.
Yeah, just the flick of a switch.
They'll come and just be like, it's a computer, and my son do this already. Like, how y'all taking so long? And you're like, mom, your son built a Google Sites website, right? Just take it easy, right? Yeah. While you're talking about a one page links to another page, I remember the IA from Form 6, and you built a website that was pretty ugly. And when I came and I told you like but she like, but does it get the marks though? And I was like, well, it gets the marks, but all right, cool, no problem, Simon, it's cool. We'll just move on to that. But it still worked out in the end, as we can see. All right, next question is when you encounter a particular technology or a particular thing in your workflow, right? Because you're all about workflows, that has changed because of some sort of upgrade or some sort of thing, or maybe a Mac update or some kind of thing, and your workflow is damaged because of it, and now you have to go and sort of retool the process. How do you handle that, and do you get mad or sort of like, no, please don't mess with my workflow? Anybody knows, don't mess with the workflow. How do you handle
I
that?
mean, very rarely would you find like technology today that completely versions you out of your workflow. So like there may be certain things that aren't available, but I think because I automated my workflow, all of these steps are already documented. So it's a bit easier for me to go back and not feel like I'm recreating the wheel, but actually only seeing the part that has been impacted and like finding the next best thing.
Or like it's modularized sort of, and you can just kind of, fix that module. Okay. All right. Well, questions going to start to get harder now. We'll reach on question 3.
How many is it? 5?
5, yeah. 5.
All
right. What have you noticed about Trinidad that gets you upset technology-wise? Because you probably have seen different things and you know what is possible, but when you have to deal with a client, you might have to pull out we don't have that in Trinidad yet. What some examples of that without going specific?
I actually think it's the other way around. Like it's not the technology to me that's frustrating. It's, how do I phrase it?
Yeah, don't incriminate yourself.
It's
take your time.
I think it's more the people building the technology that I suppose believe you can build in a silo. Like you can just build a product and just put it out and people will use it. I think there's a stigma, or I don't know, somewhere that people operate out of, that they see a problem and think it exists and people should just use the thing. And I think there's like a lack of understanding who the person is, what they actually want to do with the product. Like how is it actually serving them? Like I think very often you'd hear a lot of corporations and companies put millions of dollars behind technology, and then they switch over their entire stack, and the people that are actually using technology are like, this doesn't work for what we need it to work for. And then you end up having 5 segregated systems on the same desktop to do one job, one workflow, when if you actually spoke to the people using it, you would have known like what they were actually struggling with, what they needed it for. So I feel like there's a lack of understanding on the people using the technology, but also the people making the decision to bring on that technology. So like no one has taken the time to truly understand it or even teach people about it.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
Yeah. So more or less in terms of, you're not really probably testing the market enough to see if your idea, if your solution is something that's needed. So like in your case, when you have ideas or you have a problem that you think you have a solution for, is that something that you do like in terms of testing the market or seeing if there's something,
I feel like even testing the market is so intimidating for a new idea. I feel like I would test it with friends. I would test it with somebody I know. Like, I feel like they would be the realist with you. I figure out like what is the easiest way to bring across this idea, and then I just start asking people about it. I start asking questions about what I think about a thing, and just like documenting what the answers are and seeing if I could find patterns within it over time. Like I think it's a lot more experimental than we know it to be locally, because a lot of the products that we see locally that thrive are white label products. So those are things that we saw work away, we bought it, we brought it back here. Sadly, but most of the times they don't work for us because, for example, Trinis use cash. They're like 40% of people unbanked, like credit cards, and we want e-commerce to thrive, but we don't accept cash. Like those are just local cultural contexts that you won't find abroad that are applicable to people using products here, which are users that won't use it because they don't have a card to purchase anything, So just like little things like that. And you only find out those things through talking to people, like actual people.
Or trying to learn something and see it fail and you're like,
and that is a way too, just a really expensive one.
Yes, so expensive one. One somebody else paid. All right, that's question number 3. Question number 4 is, in the startup culture, in the sort of incubator world or whatnot, many people leave safe spaces to go into a risky sort of gung-ho Western world, not Western, but like Western-based shootout at midday sort of thing or what like that, right? There is an innate fear that my future is not booked because I don't have a pension. I don't have, now you may have gotten your own pension out, but just using examples, right? Corporate jobs, they give you this sort of promise of you have this safety net here, you have this, you retire, you whatnot, right? Good. Does that scare you anymore? Or if it does scare you, which part of it is actually a legitimate fear?
I think it's natural to think about the future for sure, right? But so far into the future, generally, it's just hard for me to see. It's just hard.
All right.
I think that I tend to be like, okay, can I eat tomorrow? Because like it actually matters to live in the present. Like when you start to go, I'm not saying don't plan your life and don't save but I do think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to have certain things by a certain time, when really and truly at 60, like, do we even know if we're going to be here? do we know that
Existential.
staying unhappy,
Go ahead. I love it. Yeah.
Do you think that staying unhappy for the next 20 years would be worth it at 60 when you could take that trip? Like for me, it's if I were to die tomorrow or next week, would I be happy with what I was doing? Because that is actually how quickly it can happen. And I think we've seen like a lot of people have lost, we're close to them with the pandemic, to crime, to all those different things. And I think remaining present, remembering that all we have is the present, really like having that perspective makes you make different decisions sometimes that may seem riskier to other people. However, I'm not negating that it's important, because I am also coming from a point of view of a woman who does not have a child. I don't have like a mortgage to pay. I think it depends on your circumstances and like where you're coming from as well, with how tolerant you could be to that risk.
Right. Okay. So there is zero fear.
No, there is fear, but there's this.
Of what?
There is fear of it not working out in the end.
Okay.
But there's a different sense of belief in myself that regardless of which way it turns, I will figure it out. I think I am not tied to a product. I'm tied to the work that I'm doing. So if a product fails, it doesn't mean that I'm a failure.
Right. Okay.
It just means that I had some things to figure out there. But I'm not tying my identity to the thing that I'm working on. It's more about like what impact I can make through my skills, through what I do.
Cool. So you would say that, it's not like for you, it's not necessarily about setting a specific hard goal in the future, but it's more about feeling that you're fulfilling a purpose, something like that.
That is even like fulfilling a purpose is hard, right? Because I actually went on a tangent a year ago trying to figure out like what is purpose? How do you find your purpose? Like it's a whole thing, right? And what I realized is you actually create it. Like you are the creator of whatever the thing you're interested in. Like whatever keeps you long enough doing it, that's likely the thing that is your purpose, because you're naturally good at it. You keep going back to it. So like how we were talking about before, I did IT, I left IT, I did accounting, and it just somehow kept finding me over and over and over and over. When things happen like that, or things keep showing up in your life, I feel like it's important to just kind of tap into that little thing that keeps nudging you. And I feel like that's how you find your purpose. But I think for me, it's more being in alignment with myself, like with my true self and what I believe in. So it's not necessarily tied to an outcome, but you always grow and you always change. And so things that I was interested in 2 years ago that I would have said I was passionate about, I may not be now. But the things I'm working on are aligned with who I feel I am, or the things that I'm doing feel good to me. And so that's kind of how I operate moving forward. I'm not tying myself to, I need to be this by this age. It's actually been, I'm following this thing that I'm interested in, and these opportunities have presented themselves. I would, of course, plan and say, okay, what partnerships can I get based on it? Like, it's not that you're letting things just flow to you, but it's more what is in alignment with what I am trying to do.
Yeah, it's kind of like deliberate faith. So you are
I'm putting in the work still.
Yeah, you're moving with a kind of faith of this thing is going somewhere, and you're deliberately putting things in place, but you still don't know exactly where it's going to go. But you have put things in place that when a door opens, you do have on the shoe to step inside there, to be lit in that. All right. All right, final one. Women in tech. Is it a thing? Is it as bad as we make it out to be? Or is it, in your experience, we getting better at it? Or do you have any sort of grouses with respect to your journey as a woman in technology who basically is a risk taker by all by all outside lookers, like, women not supposed to do this. You mad or what? Yeah. What the journey has been like, and do you have any experiences that really rocked you or stand out to you?
Yeah. I just need to put my laptop to charge.
Sure, no problem, because charging is a thing. When you have a M series MacBook that work for the whole day without charging, and it reaches to 8 o'clock, it's like, oh yeah, don't forget, you have to charge. Yeah. So to put my question a little more succinctly, women in tech, have you experienced any hills, and how did you overcome those hills?
For sure.
Just now the audio gone crazy. When you plug in your charger, it could be a power thing. Try again.
Check 1, 2.
No, it's still going bad.
1 sec.
Yeah, just change the audio settings and see. You probably know how to do it from meetings.
What about now? Better?
No, it's still bad.
Let's see. Alright, I'll have to unplug at 5%. Let's see how the mark is.
Check 1, 2.
Right, yeah. Okay, I hear you now, yeah.
Yeah? Okay, cool.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Start or you want to read?
No, go ahead. We'll edit it. It's no problem. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Biggest challenge for me was definitely imposter syndrome, like overcoming the fear of feeling like I didn't know enough or I wasn't an expert enough to direct someone how to do something or understand someone's problems. In the earlys, I think I worked really hard to get into free online courses just to understand or even make sure that what I was doing innately was right. Getting the proper structure for how certain documents should be, just making sure that I had some base level understanding of industry standards, and that way I could have innovated and made it my own, but at least I knew how naturally this was supposed to operate. And over time, like showing up in meetings, speaking to people, eventually that voice or the fear of my role got smaller and smaller. Naturally, I would say I had no choice but to come out my shell, because a lot of the times you are in rooms full of men, which could be intimidating sometimes because, tech bros, they're like talking in jargon, talking in C++, and you're like, yeah, I totally understand. But, poker facing it through, and at the end of the meeting, I'm researching every single word Granola said that they said. And I am, bet your bottom dollar, I'm coming in the next meeting and I know exactly what you're talking about. So it's also, I guess, setting yourself up to win. You will never know everything, but remaining curious and knowing that you can always learn it has really helped me throughout with like imposter syndrome. So that's how I overcame it.
Okay, that was a great answer. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
I love it. Yeah. I feel proud to be a teacher. I think that's the fourth time I said it. I only had to say it one more time for the rest of the podcast, right? Okay, we're going into our special segment, and you will only know about the special segment when we get to that special segment. Ready? After the break. All right, so here's the bonus section. You get to ask us any question. And this is where the student becomes the teacher, and I would love to know what you'd ask, but ask Akeem on first. You'll save my own for after. I know you're probably saying,
right.
Boy, I finally get to. Yeah,
oh God, this is why you find out on the spot, so you can't think about it for too long.
Correct, yeah.
Well, I'm now meeting Akeem. So Akeem, what are you into and passionate about?
Well, passionate about. Well, for me, I'm passionate about. I don't want to sound too shallow, but I'm passionate about, you know.
Wow, this is a hard one.
A hard one. I love it.
Yeah.
Not like you didn't ask me this.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll probably tell you a bit about myself. So, you know, primarily I'm a developer. You know, I've been a developer for the past over 10 years, you know, and over the past 2 years, you know, I transitioned to being like the manager of the team lead of like an enterprise scale operation, you know, in terms of that. So, I mean, over the past 2 years, I've been like deep into that enterprise environment in terms of, you know, what it takes to. So before I was kind of like just had the perspective from a developer, but now you know, kind of deep in terms of what it takes to run that team and what it takes to support and maintain and update an enterprise-wide operation for organization. You know, before, you know, it was kind of, as I say, within your silo as a developer, you know, you're just working on this, but now you get an appreciation for all the other areas, you know. So I have a developer on my team, you have a DBA, you have other administrators, you know. So apart from just managing the team, the day-to-day, keeping the lights on, supporting, you know, you have other projects that comes in, and it's probably similar to the stuff that you do in terms of you have to manage the clients being probably employees of the organization. You have to manage their requests, their expectations, you have to deal with people, you have to deal with meetings, you know, and then you have to bring it back to the team and, you know, kind of relay that message. And, you know, so that whole new dynamic is kind of all my life has been the past 2 years. So I guess I have no choice but to be passionate about it. But yeah, that entire thing, you know, and in terms of you get exposed to some of the other side of things in terms of like before, you know, it was heavily technical. You meet with your team and, you know, you do sessions, a problem solved, but you get the other side of it in terms of dealing with people, the politics, and you know, that type of thing. So you get experience on that side of it as well. So that's kind of what consuming all of my time these past 2 years. 2 years or so, yeah.
What type of products are you working on?
So it's a ERP, you know, so it's
okay.
I guess you know what an ERP is, you know, so it's an ERP. It's a student and finance ERP, you know, so it has financial part with accounts, account receivables, all the accounting side of it, and also you have a student information system side of it as well, you know. So we looking at like a HR component as well, and like right now we have like a lot of our stuff is, well, it's not on premise, but it's in the cloud, but we manage it, but we'll kind of looking to migrate to a SaaS solution. So a lot of the maintenance and upgrades wouldn't fall on us.
Would be on them.
Yeah, so we could kind of refocus on more strategic and more customer value, more customer experience type things that bring more value to the customer rather than being bogged down with just maintenance. And you know, so we could focus on improving processes, the experience and stuff like that. So that's where that would come into play. Yeah.
That sounds fun. I'd love to check it out.
Yeah.
All right. That was your one question.
Yeah, that was my one question. So you
all right. Yeah, meet a bat. Let's go.
What would you do if you couldn't teach?
Oh my goodness. I literally cannot see myself doing anything besides teaching.
That's not
Wait,
good
nah,
answer.
just let me finish now. If I can't teach, meaning I got disbarred from teaching ever, I would code. I would sit down and let somebody like you tell me what somebody wants, and I will build it out of bad mind and actually do it better than you asked, just because I want to impress people with technology so bad that I would code. So like the example is this, right? When you were in school, you had physical report books, right?
Right.
Yeah, one day a teacher came and said to me, how are we in 15 or 2016, and we can't send reports virtually yet? And I was like, I don't know why, but we could do it if you want to. And she was just saying it as a joke. She was literally saying it as a joke. And I was like, challenge accepted. So for the next 3 years, I came up with a solution to build the whole report card system for school. And now everybody just expects their report to be emailed to them automatically. Nice. So from meeting with and this is totally a one-man show. Me meeting with the teachers, creating focus groups, getting what they want, working on the template, figuring out what they want to see, what the students want to see, what parents want to see, how they want it to work, blah, 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 and then just build all the technical things to it. And then every year, just add on something to it. That brings me so much joy every time I see it work, to the point where I sit down and I ask myself, wait, now, I do this? And when I get that feeling of sit down and I look at something and say, did I do that? Then I know that I really find joy in over delivering.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would code and
Very
over deliver.
relatable.
Yeah, I would definitely do that.
I remember those days.
Yeah, I don't think I could do it now.
Especially when you think it's impossible.
Yeah, honestly, I don't, because if I look at it right now, I think it's impossible, because at my state in life right now, I cannot do that.
Yeah, but like them type of things is when you're younger and the brain's still fresh.
Yeah.
Not fresh, but like sharp. You know, as you get older, it's take a little while to warm up and
yeah. So I would definitely code, be a developer and develop solutions. It's just that when I was going through my university life, being a developer was literally not even a thing or option. To be like, coding is for the Americans. You have to go into hardware and learn networking, because all you had to do is be able to put computers in a lab, be a technician, and build a network. But now, coding and developing is a thing. All right, I'll give you a bonus question if you want, because that one was actually easy to answer.
Oh, it was easy? I thought that would be difficult.
It was difficult, but I came out good. I wanted to have some drama, but no. Okay.
Drama?
No, nothing. Okay, let's stop.
What would be dramatic? Give me an example.
Who's your favorite student or some kind of thing like that?
I mean, I know the answer. That's not dramatic. What are you talking about?
All right. Enough was in the ask the next question. That's basically you.
You're on 5%, and how much percent?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Let's see.
Yeah.
4.
Okay.
That's 20 minutes. Like 20 minutes. All right. So, Cyan, I want to thank you very, 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 very much for coming in and being not just coming to talk on the podcast, but there were questions that we asked that were a little bit vulnerable, and you were able to handle them with a fair amount of vulnerability, meaning that I think you actually like what you're doing. You really, really, really love what you're doing, and it brings you joy to process things and have workflows and do some of the things that a lot of people in technology, they're not really on that. But it shows that there is a space for it, and you are proving that space does exist. And I'm glad to hear that. When this podcast comes out, I am going to send it to all of these students. I'll be like, listen, Olia, listen to this from start to finish, because it's kind of inspiring. And I want you all to know that this thing is real, and this could be you. And you will be the example that I use. For
sure. Happy to talk to the girls at any time as well.
Oh yeah. Don't worry. It's coming. I have some plans. But
I'm ready.
The plan's bigger than school. The plans is more for the Caribbean and technology. But yeah,
Great.
I have some plans there, and I'll definitely be hitting you up. Now that you respond to my WhatsApp messages.
Wow.
Hey, I lied to you. The other time
Defamation.
she responded fast on Instagram to WhatsApp a few times, and I was like, hey.
WhatsApp is just
It's-
very traumatic. It's just too accessible sometimes.
Yeah, I hear you.
But now IG is a little wild.
So as we're speaking about Instagram, you can tell the folks where to find you and how to find you, and if anybody wants to interview you because they have another podcast, or if anybody wants to find out more about your services and those things, you tell them how to find you, and let's make sure that you are on the map for our, I don't know, by the time this comes out, we'll probably have 50 something listeners on the to the actual audio, and then all the other clips that go up, and that could be thousands. Yeah, good.
Yeah. All right. So you could find me on Instagram at Cyan Christine, and you can also find out more about me and book me through my website, cyanchristine.com.
And the website is cool, y'all. The website is cool.
Thank you.
I've been there, and I was like, oh, look. Because she uses a lot of cool fonts. The font is the key, you know. The font is
It really
key.
makes or breaks
Yeah, the font is the
your
key.
website.
I get you. Yeah.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. We went to an hour and a half. I told you an hour, but it was so good to
I
to
know,
talk,
it was so fun.
Yeah. So my name is Mr. Charles, Andre Charles from makeITsimpleTT. You could find me anywhere on the internet at makeITsimpleTT except LinkedIn, because I've given up. I am not going to bother. It was a nice pie in the sky in January to say LinkedIn. Everything else that I had planned to do mid-year, I've achieved. But LinkedIn, boy, no, I just can't. I probably had to get one of my employees to like run it for me, but then it wouldn't be personal now. It would be like just throwing up content and already if you like it. Yeah. So you can find us anywhere, and those of you all who like to send comments and feedback on this show, you can always do that at makeITsimpleTT. Let me know. A lot of you all have been sending messages. Big up to Samuel. Big up to the other people that I can't remember right now, because I get about 3 messages about the podcast per week, it is up from 1. It's up from 1. And the listenership is going up. So don't forget to share the podcast wherever you are, because I have made sure that the RSS feed is everywhere and anywhere you can listen to a podcast that has more than 1 million downloads on the Play Store or the App Store. The podcast is there. So that's me, and my co-host is
Akim there. And you can find me at redbit_tech.
All you get the surname, all you get the surname. And guys, let's remember this. Yeah.
Unlike my co-host, you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
Posting content. There we go.
I posted something like a month ago, so that way better than you.
All right, yeah, that's true. But we ain't gonna talk about TikTok, because things are a little dry on TikTok. Huh? We don't want to go there. All right, y'all. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next week. Most likely next week we'll have another interview, because we're in interview mode right now. So those of you all who impacted here, or you were impacted last week, there's another interview next week that may just impact you from a security perspective. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.